Okay, okay, great. So, welcome to this workshop on fear. My name is Linda Downey. Some of you know me well. Some of you come once a month to the workshops. Some of you might be totally new. So let me take a few seconds and just introduce myself to you if I'm new in your world. And if you can't hear me or you have any issues, definitely let me know. And make sure before we get started that you have something to take notes. So grab a notebook, grab some paper, grab a pen so that you can capture what we're going to go over tonight in the next hour. And also I want to say this, make sure that you check, I'll send the replay out by tomorrow, maybe later tonight if it's done, or tomorrow. And if you don't see it, check your spam folder. Because a lot of times I'll get, out of 40 people, 5 or 8 or 10 will say, I never got the replay, and it goes to your spam folder sometimes. I don't know why that happens. So make sure you check for that, okay? So having said that, my name is Linda Downey. I am a transformational health and spiritual coach, which really means I just help people. I work with women to partner with them on creating wholeness and peace in their life, creating health, vibrant health, whatever that means for them, the life that they want to live. And we do that by releasing the impact of pain from our past experiences, conditioning that has had us move in a particular direction that doesn't work anymore. So that's what I do. And I do that because of my own life experience, because of my own challenges that kept having me want to figure something out more, keep learning more. Oh, you know what? Is my internet a little choppy?
Make your
It is.
computer easier.
Yeah, so let me I'm going to freeze for a second because I'm going to switch to a different internet source. Hold on. Okay. Okay, are we back? We're back. Yeah. So let me know. I could tell that it looked like the video was freezing a little bit. So hopefully that just fixed that. So that's what I do and why I do it, because of my own journey. And I went back to school. I'm also a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. So I've been in health and wellness for 37 years. And that's who I am. Once a month, I do these workshops. If you've never been on one before, I try to pick a particular topic every month and do a workshop. And my intention is that in this hour of us working together, did I freeze again? No. Okay. In this hour that you see something for yourself that you didn't see before, that you walk away with some tools, something that makes a difference for you that you wouldn't have had if you didn't come to this workshop. And then my second intention is also to make available to you an opportunity if you want to do more than just some workshops. If you want to really transform how your life is showing up, I want to give you an opportunity to do that and to have a conversation with me about us working together. And there are people here who have done work with me. So, if anybody ever wants to say anything about how that went for them, or, you can see that people are here because they get transformation, they're looking for something to be different in their life. I believe, I don't know what you believe, but I believe we're all meant to have a life that we love to live. We're not meant to walk around in fear. That's not why we were put on this planet. And we're not meant to really stay stuck in suffering. We're meant to love, to share ourselves, to have vibrant, joyful life experiences. So that's the background and the intention of the workshop. Okay. So having said all of that, let's dig into fear. And so the first thing you can put on your paper as you're taking some notes, and so my folks who have done some work with me before, I can talk for the hour, no problem. I could keep this conversation going, but it's so much more interesting if you guys jump in, if you share what comes up for you when there's an opportunity to do that, okay? So it just makes it a much more interesting hour. So I'm going to give you the first opportunity to do that is let's look at what are the things that you're most afraid of? So I want you to start to make a list. When you look at your life, is it new things, things that you've never experienced before? Is it things that are ending? Like when something ends, you get to the end of a relationship, the end of a time at school, the end of, kids being at one stage in life and now they're moving on to something else. When things end, are you afraid of that? Are you afraid of anything changing? Are you afraid of
Oh,
success,
geez.
actually making your life work, or are you afraid of failure? So what are the things that you are most afraid of? Does anybody have, and you don't have to, I'm just offering it again to be more interesting. Does anybody have anything they want to share that, like, yeah, I'm really afraid of this? Because here's what's true. If you have the thought, somebody else on this call has the same thought. Anybody? No? Okay.
Linda,
Yeah. Yeah. Courtney, go
I
ahead.
can speak if that's okay.
I would love it.
Right now, like I have, you know, kind of these cliche fears, like I'm afraid of heights, like things like that. I'm claustrophobic, but right now, my body's just in this fight or flight situation, so I'm afraid of normal things that I have to do every day, like driving, going out to eat.
Okay.
I'm not afraid to. They spark anxiety, I guess. So I don't know if it's a fear. I guess it is.
Well, you feel your body respond. You have a response in your body when you think about, I have to go do this, or we're going out to dinner later tonight or tomorrow. You feel a response in your body?
Yeah, it's like it feels overwhelming at times to
Mhm.
think of having the energy to do whatever it is. Like, you know, work all day and then go do something that just seems out of reach right now for me.
Okay.
So just those normal everyday things that we have to do.
Okay. So just the everyday things of living. There might be other people on this call or watching the replay later who can really relate to that.
Yeah.
But whatever it is for you, thanks, Courtney, for sharing that.
Mhm.
And not being afraid to say what there is for you. Good job. So did everybody identify something? Even if you don't want to share what it is, make sure you put something down. Okay, good. Now, when you think about that thing, or when you're in the experience of that thing, what emotions come up for you? So Courtney, can I ask you, since you were so courageous and gracious to share that, when you think of, like, okay, at the end of the day today, I now have to go take my daughter somewhere or go to an event, and you feel the response in your body, what emotion comes up?
Mostly anxiety, worry, um, and then I start to feel guilty for like,
Mhm.
it's not that I don't want to be there. That's not the thing, but
Sure.
just, feeling guilty for not just being able to do it without some kind of emotion.
Right. So that's what I wanted to get to, like that guilt, because what ends up happening is we might feel frustration, like this thing always has me by the throat. We might feel sadness, depressed, shame, guilt. So those emotions are in addition to actually dealing with the fear. Yeah? Can you guys see that? Okay.
Yes.
Thanks, Donna. So much more interesting when it's not just me talking. So what I want you to notice right now, think of the thing. I want you to notice when you get present to whatever it is that's bringing fear, where do you feel it in your body? You don't have to share that with me. Just write down, where do you feel that in your body? How does your body tell you you're feeling fear? One of the things that in the work that I do with clients is we get really comfortable with being in our body and understanding what our body is telling us. Because a lot of times, most of the time, when you're up here in your head with stress, anxiety, fear, you're very disconnected from your body, and your body really partners with you. So what I want you to do is start to really get familiar and comfortable with noticing the signs that your body tells you. So wherever that is in your body, write that down. Now I want to just break down into a couple of categories. All right. So the first category is, we're going to call this level 1. So level 1, these are, let's see, you could put on your paper 2 columns, right? And on one side, you're going to call level 1, or on one side, you're going to call it fear of things that happen.
2600. Sam will select first in Double Jeopardy, which begins right after the question.
Double Jeopardy.
Hold on. Okay, so fears of things that happen. So these are just things that happen in life. So it could be aging. It could be fear of being alone. It could be health fears, illness fears. It could be loss of financial security. So these are things that happen in life, losing a loved one. The other column under level 1 are fears that require us to take action. So making decisions, taking a new job, going out and doing more activity at the end of a workday requires action, traveling, public speaking, having a child. These are things that require you to make a decision. Whereas the first column were fears that just happen in life, right? Things are going to change. We're all going to age. We're all going to have people that we lose. So level 1 fears are really fears that show up in the circumstances of our life, you know, outside of us. There are things that happen or actions that we have to take, but either way, they're outside of us. So it's the stories and the circumstances of our lives that we can actually see. You can really see, oh, I'm afraid to make a change in my job. Oh, I'm afraid to start a new relationship. I just had a bad divorce. I don't want to be alone. I'm afraid of being alone, but I'm also afraid of a new relationship, right? So you can see that out there. That's level 1. And sometimes you can have a fear that will show up in many areas of your life. Like if you have a fear of meeting new people, that would be an action fear, right? I don't like to meet new people. I'd rather just be around people I know. So then that fear is going to show up in a lot of different places. It might show up when you get a new job. Now there's new people to meet. It might show up, you avoid new one-on-one relationships because that person's new and anybody else who comes along with them is new. So you might find a fear of having a new relationship or a fear of meeting people showing up in your job, showing up in your social life, showing up if you have to move to a different area, right? So you just want to see how it starts to pervade throughout your life, many different ways. And I think, Courtney, maybe I heard a little bit of that in you, because it's like, if I'm afraid that I don't have the energy to do things, now I'm not going to have the energy to go to after school activities. I'm not going to have the energy to go to some things that I might want to do as an adult with my girlfriends. I'm not going to have the energy to go create another relationship, right? So like that can show up in all areas of your life. Am I right in assuming that?
Yeah, and I've come a long way, surprisingly, but there was a time where I thought if I do all this stuff today, I won't have the energy for stuff the rest of the week. Like I would think of it like that. And you're the one that told me you can't think of it like that. Like each day is its own day, and you do the things, you rest, and then you do the things the next day, you know?
Yeah, because what was happening, what Courtney's saying is on Monday, she would look at her schedule and see a full schedule or see things, you know, that would cause her stress. And on Monday already decide, oh my God, I can't make it to Friday. So if you
Yeah.
already decide on Monday, I can't make it to Friday, well, then you're not going to. There's no way that you can, right? So stop looking past just the day that you're in, is what we did. Okay,
Mhm.
great. So those are level 1 fears. The next level that I want to talk about is level 2 fears. And these fears are more about your inner state of mind. So instead of the certain situations that we just identified and circumstances that you might have to take action, these are actually fears that are more in your inner state of mind, and they reflect your sense of yourself and your ability to navigate the world. So these are fears like rejection, abandonment, disapproval, being vulnerable, having an image challenged, a certain image of how you show up in circles, your social circles, losing that image. Feeling shame. Shame is a lot of the work that I do with clients, we do around shame because it's the lowest level of emotion that you can feel, that you can be in, is shame. And it really, really blocks you from having any sort of fulfilling life experience. Let me say it that way. So level 2 is much more about your state of mind. So you can see that, let's just pick rejection. So that was the first one that I said. So if I have a fear of rejection, then I might not go for another job. So I think my fear is about getting a new job. But what I'm really afraid of is the level 2 is I'm really afraid of being rejected. Can you guys see that? How there's like the external story circumstance, but then behind it is something in how you think and see yourself. That's really the fear behind that. What I really want to know is if you can't see that, I don't want to keep going. I want to make sure I address it and help everybody who at least is on the call to get, you know, what they want to see. So just let me know if you can't, okay? Awesome. Okay, good. So we have level 1 fears are the stories and circumstances that are either happening or that you have to make a decision about and take action on. Behind those are level 2 fears, which are all about your identity. They're really about your ego, wherever your ego is at. And their goal is to keep you safe. You felt rejected at one point. You don't want to feel rejected again. You felt abandoned by somebody. You don't want to feel abandoned again. Okay. Now we have one level further, level 3. And level 3 is the root of all of it. Level 3 is the key. What if the internet went out right now and I never said what that was? You'd be like, oh, that's the key? That's the root to all of it? And she's gone? Oh no. Right? Here it is. The root of everything really is, I can't handle it. So I want you to take anything that you wrote down, each and every one of those level 1s, and we're going to put it with, I can't handle it. Because I want you to really see that the bottom of every one of your fears is that you think you can't handle whatever there is to handle, whatever life brings. So if it's, I'll use Courtney's because she shared it out loud. I have more to do at the end of the day. After my work day, I have more to do. I'm afraid I won't be able to do it. I'm afraid I can't handle it. I'm afraid, let me see if I wrote some of these out. I can't handle a new relationship. I can't handle losing my job. I can't handle getting old. I can't handle making a fool out of myself. I can't handle being alone. I can't handle sharing myself and opening my heart. You can't handle being alone, or you can't handle opening up your heart. So those are level ones with I can't handle. And you can see that if you had a crystal ball, imagine that if you had a crystal ball and you could like say your magic words and the crystal ball would show you your life and you saw yourself actually handling the thing, there would be no more fear. There would be no reason to have fear because you would see yourself like, oh, I am handling it. Oh, that person died, but I handled it. Oh, I lost a lot of money, but I handled it. Oh, I got sick and I handled it. It's the I can't handle it part that's causing the fear. If you knew for certain, like with a crystal ball, you wouldn't have fear. The level 2 fears, I can't handle being rejected. I can't handle success. I can't handle failure. Same thing. I can't handle rejection. Well, if you saw somebody reject you in your crystal ball and you actually walked away from that and you didn't die and the bottom of your house didn't cave through like in a sinkhole, you'd be like, oh, they rejected me. And guess what? I'm still living to tell about it. I'm still here to meet the 899 billion other people in the world. So the I can't handle it is the level 3 bottom line underneath it all. It looks like it's these things out here. I'm afraid to talk in groups. I'm afraid of change. I'm afraid to be sick. I'm afraid to end my marriage because I don't know how to live alone. I'm afraid to stay in my marriage because we can't stand each other. Whatever it is, right? That's all out there. Beneath that is something to do with how you see yourself, abandonment, rejection, those things that I said. And then beneath that is just an underlying, I can't handle it. So what the problem really is a lack of certainty about yourself. It's not the thing. It's not the success, the failure, the person, the change, the money. It's never any of that. It's your lack of certainty about yourself. Who's with me? Show of
I
hands.
am.
Yeah, okay, good. Is that good news?
Mm.
So everybody put their hand up and now nobody's answering. I'm not sure if it's good news. What do you think?
I think so because even when I'm in that situation, I try to stop and think like I try to talk myself through it like I can do this. It's just a temporary feeling, you know, whatever.
Yeah,
And it helps me get through it at the time.
yeah. Robin, you were saying something, but you were muted, but I could see your mouth moving.
So it's a lack of certainty or a lack of the unknown. Is that?
It's a lack of certainty because if you had certainty that you could handle the unknown, you'd be okay with the unknown. It's certainty about yourself. We think it's about the other things, but it's certainty about ourselves.
Self-confidence?
Well, self-confidence would be part of having certainty about yourself. That would be included. If you have certainty about yourself, you're going to have self-confidence.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the certainty about yourself because that's the one thing that you have control over. If you have certainty about yourself, it doesn't matter what else anybody else says. I felt like that was a lot of else's. What anyone else might say, what anyone else might do, what might happen in the world.
So,
If you go ahead.
so truly believing I am enough.
I'm enough and I can do it. It's all goes back to your story and your relationship about you. Because if you had certainty about yourself, I'm not saying things wouldn't be painful, but you would know that you can get through painful things and still breathe, right? You would know that you could go through losses. I'm going to share this with you guys, and I think everybody here, that at least the names that I can see, is familiar with me. But I have a daughter that died. I meet people all the time who say, I don't know how you do that. That's a loss you can never recover from. And I appreciate their sentiment, but I don't agree, because I have learned and worked on, it's not that I don't miss her. It's not that it's not painful when I think of her at times. It's not that I, don't wish she were here. But I know now with certainty that I can handle whatever it is I need to handle, even when it's completely outside of my control. So
Mm.
when I know that, I don't have to stay in the grief of it. I don't have to stay in the pain of it. I don't have to be fearful that I'm going to lose my son now. Oh, I lost my daughter. What if I lose my son? I don't do that. There are people who do that, right? Go right to, okay, now what's the next thing? I can't handle it. So it really comes down to your certainty about you, and very specifically the phrase, I can't handle it, or I can handle it, is at the bottom line. So let's see if we can get our arms around what does it take to be able to have that kind of certainty. You have to develop more trust in your ability to handle whatever comes your way, right? So why do we have that? Why is that part of our human condition? Well, first of all, some of it is just our instincts. The way we're wired is to keep us safe. So we have an innate system that says, make sure you're safe, keep yourself in safe. That's what your ego is really, its job is to always make sure you're safe, even if safe isn't really what you want. Like being safe, what you really want is an amazing job, or you'd like to move to another country, but your ego's saying you can't do that. You've never done something like that, so you don't do it, even though you want to. So the ego is there to keep us safe, but sometimes it's at our own detriment. And what's, I think so important, we'll talk about this more at the end, is to really recognize that fear is never going away. Fear is part of the human experience. As long as you're growing and being willing to live. If you want to keep yourself in a box and not grow, not go for the next relationship, not try for a different job, not move or change ever, then you can really minimize your fear. But as long as you're growing, as long as you're alive and looking to grow, fear is going to be a part of it. And just sort of being like, oh, okay, so that's there to tell me I'm trying something new. We're going to talk about how to shift to relating to that in a different way. But some of it is keeping us safe. A lot of it, much more of it, is our conditioning. So the way that we've been conditioned to see ourselves in the world, that's where all those level 2 fears come from. So how many of you, when you were little, your mom sent you off to school and said, go for it, go take really big risks, jump off of anything you can, stand up even if you don't know the answer? Did your mom say that, or did she say, be safe, honey, be careful while you're out there, I'll be waiting for you when you get home? What did she say? She said, be safe, be careful. That's an automatic conditioning from when we're very, very young, which is the world is dangerous. You're not going to be able to handle it. I'm sending my safety vibes with you because you need them, because you can't really handle what you're going to come up against when you get to school. That's the conditioning. And what she's really saying is she doesn't trust and can't handle her, she doesn't trust in her own ability to handle you going off to school. But then we pass that down to the next generation and the next generation. We just pass down the conditioning of the world isn't safe. when I started to really like dig into this and look at my own life, I stopped saying to people, for the most part, unless it's just something automatic that if I'm not present, I might do it automatically, but I don't say have a safe trip to people anymore. When they're leaving my house, you know, you have somebody over Easter Sunday and they leave, call me when you get home. Does anybody have family members who do that? Call me when you get home so I know you got home safe.
Yep.
The automatic message there is you won't get home safe. And I can't trust that you will, because the world's not safe. If you've been doing that to people since they were toddlers, they're conditioned to be fearful. So on the backdrop of that kind of conditioning from our parents is then the conditioning that we create ourselves in our own experiences. So for example, I use this one kind of a lot because I think happens to everybody, number one, and it's really not a big deal now as an adult. But say you're in kindergarten and a kid in your class is having a birthday party and you're not invited. These days they do the whole class. I don't know. That's what they were doing when my son was in school. When I was a kid, you didn't do the whole class. We had birthday parties that had maybe 6 or 7 kids, right? So you could easily be in a class and hear that another kid had a birthday party and you weren't invited. So how you go through that experience is going to have a lot to do with, do you get a fear of rejection? Do you have a fear of rejection now? Because if you come home and you're crying and you say to your mom, Sally had a birthday party and I wasn't invited, that nobody likes me, you have a feeling of rejection. If depending on how that gets handled, so there's a couple of different ways. A lot of times it's, oh, what do you care? Stop worrying about that. You don't need Sally anyway. You have your own friends. Like it's really kind of poo-pooed. Don't worry about that. Stop crying. Or it could be, we don't like Sally anyway. Or it could be, I'll go talk to that Sally. I'm going to find out why they didn't invite you. But none of those responses actually just let the child experience what they experienced and have it be okay. Like, oh, I'm sorry. Did that really hurt your feelings? I'm really sorry that happened. Can I hug you? Do you want me to hug you? Like we don't nurture that way. At least a lot. My house was like, stop crying, suck it up. There's going to be another party next week. So you never really got the experience of being heard and letting it move through. So it kind of stays stuck. And now that pain of not being invited to that birthday party becomes your experience of rejection, and the pain stayed inside of you. So now 6th grade comes and you like somebody in your class, but you're afraid they're going to reject you. So you don't ever tell them, you know, those middle school years, right? Or you get to be 15 and you have your first boyfriend or girlfriend and they break up with you. And now it feels just like that kindergarten party. The same feeling is there, the same emotions. That's why I said, where did you feel that in your body? Because you're going to notice when you have these experiences, it goes right to the same parts of your body, because that's where it got stuck. And that's where your body's saying, this reminds me just like that last thing. So those level 2 fears of, I feel abandoned. I feel like, you know, nobody invites me to things. I feel abandoned. I got divorced. I didn't think I was going to get divorced when I got married, but I'm divorced. And now I feel abandoned by my partner. Those level 2 fears, which might then translate into, so I'm not going to put myself out for another relationship. We could get into it. I mean, when we do work together, and the ladies here who know it, there's a lot more to that. Like, you know, there's a lot more to look at, but I'm just looking at it from the lens of fear and what you can do to get a handle to not have those fears be running you. So When you look at fear, there's two places that you can be. And probably right now you're in the first place, which is pain. When you have fear about, can I go to my daughter's stuff after the end of a work day? Or whatever else you wrote down. That's the only one that I know because Courtney shared it. But whatever you wrote down, it can keep you in pain. And that means you feel helpless about the situation. You feel depressed and you feel paralyzed. That's being your relationship to fear, and the thing that you're afraid of is a relationship of pain. The opposite side of that is using fear as a green light for action, using fear as a catalyst to move you, using fear as a source of power in your life, because it's not going away. You are not going to ever stop having fear. So if you're playing the waiting game of when I stop being afraid, then I'll do it, give it up, because it's not ever going away. So it's either a place of pain where I feel helpless, depressed, and paralyzed, or there's that fear again. There's that feeling in my stomach. I think it's reminding me of being rejected, or I'm feeling abandoned. Now a place of power, and I'm going to talk about how to get there, but a place of power is you can see choices, which is different than being helpless. When you feel helpless, you don't see any choices, do you? You're just stuck. You see choices. When you relate to fear from a place of power, and when I say power, I don't mean power out in the world. I mean personal, internal power, like those steps to that certainty of I can handle it. That's the power I'm talking about, okay? When you see it from a place of power, you get energized. Like, oh, this is a place I need to go to work on. This is a place that's reminding me of something that happened before in my life. It's showing up again. I want to go to work on that. It gets you energized, and then you take action instead of being paralyzed. So you really have a choice of, am I going to let it stay in this column of pain, or am I going to let it move me? Am I going to relate to it in a way that it moves me into some level of empowerment in my life? So here's a really important piece of that. Really important. If you don't take anything else away from tonight, love and power go together. You cannot be in fear and be in the presence of love at the same time, because they can't exist in the same place. Love and power go together. So that internal power, when you love yourself, that's when you're creating the certainty. That's when you're moving out of relating to fear from a place of pain. Then you see fear, you remember who you are. You remember that you love yourself, that you can handle things, and then you move into action. So there's no magic formula to make fear never show up again in your life. There's only a formula to change how you relate to it by changing how you see yourself. Who's with me on that? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Anybody like, I don't know, I don't get the whole love power thing? Go ahead, Robin.
So I've been stressing about the fact that fear keeps coming in every once in a while, but I've been doing a lot of changing. So based on what you're saying, it's not unusual that fear has come in and out, because if I'm making changes, that I could be a little fearful about doing those. So I shouldn't be hard on myself that fear is coming in. I should just go and continue forward.
100%. That could have been the workshop right there. No, really. But yeah, because fear is going to show up and it's telling you you're growing. It's telling you there's something there that you haven't yet dealt with, or there's something on the horizon for you to deal with. To me, it's good news, right? I don't want to
Right.
stay stagnant in my life. I don't want to be helpless and paralyzed. So when fear shows up, to me, that's an opportunity to shine a spotlight and to look at, where am I not loving myself? Where am I telling myself I can't handle something? Because that's just conditioning.
Right.
It's just conditioning. And then I've collected evidence to support the conditioning over the course of my life, because that's what we do. So that's a great question, Robin. At the end, before we wrap up, I'm going to give you some truths about fear, and I'm going to give you just some statements to help you. But one of the truths is fear does not go away. So if you can just remember that, the next time it shows up, you feel that in your body, whatever it is, you want to go, oh yeah, fear doesn't go away. This is okay that it's showing up. Do I want to have choices about how I'm going to be, or do I want to feel helpless? Okay,
Thank you.
so what you want to do is look at the source of your conditioning that made you go to that level 2 fear, rejection, abandonment, failure, any of that. What was the source of that, if you can? Again, a lot of the work that I do with my clients, and some of you ladies here know that, is we do, week after week after week of digging into this. It's not something we can do in an hour, but getting to the source of that and then reconditioning or rewiring how you want to be in your life. But the meanings, it's those meanings, those conditioned meanings, that have separated you from your power, and they've separated you from your own love and acknowledgement of yourself. So we want to pull them out by the roots like a bad weed. We want to pull them out so there's no more separation between you and your sense of self, you and your own personal power. So I want you to write 3 statements right now. We're just going to write them, but then I am going to ask you to say them out loud. You're muted, so we can't hear you. If anybody else in your house can hear you, whisper it if you need to. But I want you to say it out loud. So let me first give you the statements. The first statement number 1 is, I am powerful and I am loved. I am powerful and I am loved. Second statement, I am powerful and I am loving. Third statement, I am powerful and I love it. Now, before we say them together, think back to the beginning of the hour when I said, when you think of your fear, the thing that you're afraid of, where do you feel it in your body? So if you remember that, or if you can let yourself feel it again, where do you feel that in your body? How does your body feel when you're connected to the pain of your fear? Okay. Now we're going to say these 3 statements, and then I want you to look and see, how does my body feel when I say this? What changes in my body? So let's say them together right now. I am powerful and I am loved. I am powerful and I am loving. I am powerful and I love it. How did your body feel differently? Just one time through saying those statements. Did anybody notice a difference in their body?
Yeah, my stomach didn't hurt.
Okay. So before, when you got connected to what you're afraid of, you felt that in your stomach, like a tightening in your stomach or a heaviness?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. And then when you say these, that goes away. Your body's always telling you where you're at, what subconscious things you're listening to. Your body is your subconscious mind in action. All right. So great. How are we going to get some more tools to actually shift from our pain relationship to fear to a power relationship, if you want to do that? So the first thing is looking at your language. And we do a lot of work around that because language, the vocabulary that you use creates your world 100%. It's the words that you're saying to yourself in your head. It's the words that you speak out loud is creating your reality. So the first shift that you want to do is looking at your language and starting to create a new vocabulary. That's why I don't say have a safe trip. I don't say it because speaking it out loud creates it in the space, creates it in the listening of the other person. I would much rather say, I don't know, what could be a more empowering statement when somebody leaves? Whatever
Have
you
a
would
great
say.
trip.
Have a great trip. Have a great trip. Yeah.
So
It's
don't tell
funny
me when
that
you
you
get home.
Say that again.
So don't, when you drop your girlfriend off or your boyfriend and you don't text me when you get home?
I don't say that because in the listening is a reinforcement every time of you're not safe. I need to know that you're safe.
But I've read that that is a form of showing love to somebody.
I'm sure it is. I would rather show love that's more empowering than depleting and diminishing.
Well,
That's I'm just saying, that's for me, that's like, I've taken that on. So, you could say something like, when they get out of the car or when they go to leave, you rock my world. I love you. Can't wait till next time. That's showing love without creating anything in the listening of fear, worry, like reconditioning that. But again, it's not, I'm not here to convince you of anything. Just look and see and take it on what feels right for you. So when we're going to now create 2 lists, vocabulary lists, and this is for you and your relationship to fear within yourself. So if the first list is going to be things we would like to change, the second list is what some possibilities that you could change it to. So the first thing is I can't. So change I can't to I won't. Now it's a choice. I can't feels helpless. I can't deal with this relationship. I can't take how he's treating me. I won't deal with this relationship. I won't deal with how he's treating me. Feels very different. One word, change, right? But it gives you power. It gives you choice. Now it's my choice with how I'm going to be in this relationship instead of being at the effect of the relationship and the other person. The second one is it's not my fault. Now you might be like, well, how does that affect fear? But a huge part of having fear in our life is where we're not taking responsibility for our life. So we'll get into that in a minute. But anytime we're using, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. We are refusing to take responsibility, which is contributing to a feeling of helplessness. So I'm totally responsible. I am totally responsible. What we're talking about is I'm responsible for my reactions and my feelings. That's what we're taking responsibility for. We'll talk about that a little more. The next one is it's not my problem. Change that to this is an opportunity. Some of you guys who so nicely asked about Paris when I was there a couple of weeks ago, it was one problem after the other. It was just one problem after the other, from the plane delayed to like everything, right? And as I was in the airport, so for people who don't know, I was flying to Paris a couple of weeks ago to actually speak at an event, and my flight got delayed like a full day, which meant I missed the whole first day of the event. It was a 2-day event. I missed the entire first day. I was scheduled to be a keynote speaker. And since when I contacted them, I'm coming late, they put me at the end of the second day, which really was a very different experience than being a keynote speaker. So it really, one thing piled on top of the other. But when I'm standing in the airport in the line and the guy from Air France is walking around saying, sorry, the flight's not going to happen. We're working on getting you on other flights or whatever. You could hear the conversations all around. Well, the ones in English, there were a lot of French ones. I don't know what they were saying, but they sounded very similar, their tone. Nobody was happy, right? Complaining, they better fix this. They're calling people, it's not my fault. That's a possible way to be. But it's also possible to go, okay, what am I going to do with this? So I needed to make calls and let the people know I wasn't going to be there on time. And then after that, it was like, how am I going to, I get to choose how I respond to this. I can be upset and pissed off and really bummed out that my first international speaking thing is going like this, or I can use it as an opportunity. Because guess what? I'm speaking on peace and wholeness. If I can't have peace and wholeness in the airport right now, I have no business doing this talk, right? So use whatever it is as your opportunity. If you're saying I'm stuck in this right now, change that to, I want to learn and grow. I want to. Life is a struggle or life is an adventure. It's 100% your choice. What will I do? I think, Courtney, we were talking today, and what was the phrase that you used? And I gave you this kind of response back, but you said something like, I can't even imagine being able to, right? Whatever it was you were saying. I can't even imagine doing, I used to do that and I can't even, like, it seems so far from here.
Yeah.
Right?
Driving out of state. Yeah.
Right. You're like, I used to do that and I can't even imagine doing it now because I have so much anxiety. And my response was, don't anchor to the, I can't imagine doing it. Because you just get, I can't even imagine. How did I ever do that? I can't do that. It's too hard. If you anchor to that, you're in the fear. So the suggestion was anchor to, I used to do that. I used to love doing that. I love doing that. I love driving out of state. Anchor to that. Anchor your mind, your body, your spirit to that. And just like when we said those 3 statements, you could feel the difference in your body, you can feel the difference. It's a momentary difference because you just did it one time. But if you start practicing that, now your nervous system says, oh, I guess I don't need to be stuck in fight or flight because we actually like doing this.
Mm.
But if you anchor to the fear and the problem, that's where you will stay. So the early conditioning of be safe creates a mentality that we want to shift. And how would you see yourself in your world if you had been getting very different messages all the way through? Not only, you can do it, go get it, it's okay, you fell, go fall on your face, we'll figure it out. If you were getting those kind of messages when you were sent out into the world, and then when something happened and you came back home crying, somebody held the space for you. Let me hear about that. I'm so sorry. Let you actually feel it and process it. And then say, I got it, honey. Are you done crying? Okay, what do you want to do tomorrow when you go to school? How do you want to be with that person? You can tell a first grader that. They can get that. Wasn't happening in my house. And I adore my dad, but he was a stiff upper lip. You want something to cry about? I'll give you something to cry about. There wasn't a lot of space held so that I could actually process through it. And that has to happen. Okay. The next step. So the first step is change your vocabulary. The next step is expand your comfort zone. So most of us stay within our comfort zone and we don't want to go out of it. So every day I'm going to challenge you to do one thing outside your comfort zone. And I'm not talking about driving 90 down the freeway, like that kind of out of your comfort zone. I'm like, go talk to somebody at work that's in a different department. If that's your thing, like you just stay with the people that you know, go talk to somebody that's in a different department. Could be a possibility. It could be if there's always one friend of yours that does all of the organizing and you just sort of like let it happen, be the one who organizes. Come up with the idea. It might be, you know, ask someone else out on a date rather than waiting to be asked. It could be, so people have a lot of fear around money. It's a lot of conditioning about money, about what they should spend money on. So you might have a comfort zone where $50 is a good price for shoes. $80 or $100, oh, now I'm nervous. Right? It's not the number, it's the conditioning about how you see what it's okay for you to spend on shoes. So go buy $100 pair of shoes. Because if you could buy the $50 ones and not think anything about it, but now the $100 ones have your stomach tightening, that's the conditioning around money. I promise you. More about money, if you would ask for a $5,000 raise in your job, it's, you know, your review is coming up, you would ask for a raise and you're willing to ask for 5,000, but 7,000, oh my God, nobody ever does that. It's only ever $5,000 increments. You don't get $7,000 raises. Well, if you actually sat down and made a list of why you're valuable at your job and what you bring to the table and why you're worth that, ask for 7,000. What's the worst they could do? No, our cap is 5,000. You bring up really good points, but we're going to give you 5. Okay. Thanks for hearing me. The world doesn't end, but you're taking steps out of your comfort zone because your comfort zone is based on the past experiences that you've had. Okay, so those were some examples. I'm actually checking my notes while we're doing this, but I am mindful of the time, so I want to move through. Here's the thing, when you're taking risks, always do it with love and integrity involved with yourself and or others, okay? So when you have love and integrity as part of the choices that you're making, that's how you build your self-worth. You don't want to do things that are out of integrity. So if, you know, if you only make $100 a week, then spending $100 on shoes would be out of integrity, right? So I'm not saying do that. Have it be integrity, be in standing in love for yourself and other people. And then that's how you build your self-worth. That's how you can honestly state, I can handle it more and more and more often. The third step is take responsibility for your life. Taking responsibility for your life does not mean going and getting a job that pays the bills, not, you know, needing other people to support you, but then being in your life, complaining about everybody, you know, stopping yourself. Those are, so there's tangible ways to take responsibility for your life, like get a job that pays the bills. But when you're really responsible, what that means is you're responsible not for the circumstances of your life, but you're responsible for how you react to them. That's what I mean by being responsible. And this is huge on getting your power back. So wherever you're not taking responsibility puts you in a position of pain. Oh, I wouldn't have so much stress if my husband would just help me more around the house. Right? That's a complaint. You're over there complaining about them rather than being responsible for how you react. That keeps you stuck. So I'm going to give you 7 things about being responsible. Number 1, never blame anyone else for anything. Never, ever, ever. For how, I mean, blame them for how you feel, what you are doing, how you're feeling, what actions you're taking. Those are 100% yours. So don't blame anyone else for how you're feeling, what you're doing, how you're being. Number 2, don't blame yourself either. Because anywhere that you're putting blame is putting you as a victim. It's taking away your power. anywhere, blaming somebody else or yourself. Number 3, be aware of when you do not take responsibility so that you can change. So your clues are those clues in your body. Hey, Rhonda. We're finishing up our workshop, so stay with us. Your clues are what you feel in your body. Like that's why we just did a little work on noticing what your body tells you. Other clues are when you stay in anger, when you blame others, when you lose your focus, when you're stuck in self-pity, when you feel helpless, when there's no joy, or you're tired all the time, like life is getting you down. Those are all signs. When you're feeling judgmental, those are all signs that you're not taking responsibility for yourself. You're being a victim too. Hey, Jen, we're just
Hey, how
finishing
you
up
doing,
our
everybody?
workshop. Okay.
Nice to see you. Hi,
Number
Courtney.
4, Jen, we're in the end of a workshop that on fear. So we're just finishing that up. Number
Okay.
4 for responsibility is taking control of, I call it the itty bitty shitty committee that's in your head. The itty bitty shitty committee.
I like that.
Because that committee never has anything good to say. Just doesn't. It's going to be judgmental, critical, whiny, talk you out of things. So handling that. The next one is be aware of what payoffs are you getting for staying stuck. Whenever we choose to perpetuate something that we don't like in our life, there's a reason why we're doing that. And when you're responsible, you're willing to look at that. Number 6, figuring out what you want in life and acting on it, knowing that the fear is going to be there. I can still have fear and act. I can still have this feeling in my body and go take action. Number 7 is being aware of all of the choices that you have rather than being stuck and paralyzed and helpless. Okay, so those were 7 statements around being responsible in your life. I'm gonna
Sorry, can I,
Sure, yeah,
can
yeah.
you just repeat that last one again? Sorry.
Being aware of that you have choices. When you stay stuck in helplessness, you feel paralyzed. And so when you can get yourself, when you can kind of backwind and go, hold on, what are the choices that I actually have here? You start to diminish the fear, and then you can put yourself into action. Action is going to be key. Again, taking risks, expanding your comfort zone, taking action is key to having less and less experience of fear. Then the last thing I want to wrap it up with is 5 truths about fear. So the first one I already said earlier is it will never go away. So if you're playing the waiting game, when I stop being afraid, then I can go do X, give that up. Number 2 is the only way to get rid of fear is to go do something very specific, whatever specifically would move the needle. The doing comes before the feeling better. You have to take the action while you're still feeling the fear. You can't wait to not feel it and then take action. It doesn't work.
Someone used the word pivot. Pivot.
Pivot is great, like pivot into another way of seeing it or a different choice. Yeah. The next one is recognizing that not only do you feel fear, so does everyone else. Because a big thing about fear is it has us up in our head thinking it's just us, and it's not. This is what it is to be a human being. This is part of the human condition. This is the next one. Pushing through fear is less frightening than living with the underlying fear that comes from the helplessness. So that helplessness, paralyzed feeling is much more frightening than actually pushing through and taking an action, especially those smaller, expanding your comfort zone type of actions. It really is, once you do it, right, Courtney? Once you do those little things, you realize I can now do the next thing, and I can do the next thing. And it's so much less painful than actually staying stuck and paralyzed.
Yeah.
The last one is the pain of failing or having scary emotions is nothing compared to abandoning yourself and your life experience. This is your life. You only get one of them. When you abandon your life experience because of your conditioning and your fear, that is so much more a deeper pain than actually, okay, I failed. Okay, I'm embarrassed. Okay, we broke up. Okay, I need a new job. Okay, I'm out of money. I need to go find some more money somewhere else. Whatever that pain is nothing compared to abandoning yourself and limiting the only life you've got because of your conditioning and your fear. So, comments before we say goodnight?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Yes,
thank you.
you.
This was really helpful.
Thank
Good.
you.
Okay, so I will send out the replay tomorrow. I appreciate it. If there's any questions that come up, you can always email me back. And then, as I said at the beginning, I want you to walk away with something that you didn't see for yourself or some sort of tool. And I also want you to know that you have an opportunity to go deeper. This is a 1-hour workshop, but the work that I do with my clients, as many of you know, is a lot deeper in a lot of different other places besides fear. But if that's you, or you want to have a conversation about it, then you just need to respond to me in the email as well. Okay? All right.
Good
I'm gonna
night.
wish everybody a good night, and my next group is staying on. Oh no, let me stop the recording. That would make sense.
Go
Okay,
kick
have a
ass,
good night.
ladies.
There you go. Okay,
Bye.
ciao.
Bye.
Bye. Stop recording. There we go.
Bye, Courtney.